And welcome back to another day, another week of Plug Talk Sports. I'm joined right now by Jonka, as per usual, myself, Brandon. And we got the hats out now too. Jonka, let me see the. Ooh, okay,
My boy Naruto.
nice. I like it.
Or if you guys are in the country, my boy Luke Combs.
Luke Combs, okay, and it's like the truck hat too, right? With the I need to get more of those. I don't have a lot of those. But yeah, so we're hat out, and honestly, our heads are on top of everything with NBA free agency, which we'll go into a lot of this episode. And we also do want to, of course, acknowledge that Daniel is going to be, unfortunately, not able to join us today. He's doing some personal issues right now with his family. So we have a lot of prayers for him and wish him the best, of course. But even before we go into anything that's sports related, as tradition, Jonka, what do you want to start with? The best thing from your week or the worst thing from your week?
Where's the best? I would have to say worst.
All right. What was your worst thing from the week?
Obviously, I know the Marlins right now, they're winning against the Cardinals right now, but they just got their fins handed to them.
Yeah, I don't even understand that. Like, it wasn't even close halfway through Atlanta. You know what I mean? So, but that was really tough.
There's some stats here. Let me see if I can find them.
Yep.
I was blown away by the stats. Okay, here we go. The Atlanta Braves are 9-1 versus Miami this season. 9-1. They outscored the Marlins 83-29 over those 10 games, and they out-homered them 30-9 in those 10 games. Yeah. That just goes to show you the Marlins, even though the Marlins are playing very good, they're still a little bit away from competing for a title.
Getting to that point, yeah. Especially with Atlanta, man. But
yeah, I don't know what's going on with Atlanta. That's some voodoo right there.
Yeah, that's a different beast. But for me though, I guess the worst thing I'd probably say is definitely been my sleep schedule. Like Sunday, I couldn't sleep at all Sunday. Then I had to work early in the morning, like 8 o'clock Monday. And then lucky I was like, oh, we're half day, nothing too crazy. I'm like, okay, no problem. I try to go to sleep here. I can't even sleep with nothing going on. Like, that's how bad the schedule has gone into. I can't even take a nap anymore. So don't know. I have no idea. But Jonka, best thing from your week?
It would have to be me, my brother, my friend Michael, friend Jose. We all went to Florida SuperCon on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, man. My cousin went there.
It was super fun. Yeah, we love to do things. You guys like comic books, video games, anime, whatever, superheroes, whatever stuff, Funko Pops. It's really fun. You go, you hang out, you cosplay, all that stuff. You hang out the whole day. It's really fun. I go every year. So people telling me to go to the one in Orlando, which is like 2 floors. And the guy some guy that told me when at work said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to the one here in Florida in Miami, but apparently the one in Orlando, that the size of the one in Miami is half of the first floor in Orlando."
So half it just one floor.
So one floor, half that is the size of the one here in Miami. Man, and that's the Miami Beach Convention Center. That thing is huge.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, I think that everything's huge in Orlando. I don't know what's going on over there, but it's like they're double sizing everything. You know what I mean? Like Disney, Universal, convention centers. It's weird.
It's a fourth of what the one it is in Orlando. So
yeah, that's insane. But what I would say, for me, the best part, Inter Miami didn't lose last week. They ended up actually draw against that of Nashville 1-1. And technically does break a 7-game losing streak. So right before Messi comes, we might get on the better side of things. There's 2 games, actually. One played tomorrow on July the 4th. And, of course, for those who are watching as well as listening, happy Independence Day coming up tomorrow. And as well, Inter Miami plays later on. I want to say the weekend later on this week. But now that we got past all the good stuff, let's get into the drama. NBA free agency. For those who have been living under a rock for the past 3 days, the NBA has now been open for players to join onto their teams that have their desire. Now, we talk about literally within a minute's time, Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors, who potentially could have gone to Portland, he ended up signing a 4-year, $100 million deal with. Is that you? Well, that wasn't. Maybe might have been a faucet.
Okay.
Kind of freaked me out. Okay, but back to what I was
Resume.
saying. Resume, yeah, resume. So back to what I was saying. Yeah, Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors, of course, the veteran that's been a part of 4 championships with that franchise, re-signed within a minute's time of free agency back to Golden State for 100 million 4 years, and then followed that by the Portland Trailblazers as well, re-signing Jeremy Grant for 5 years, $160 million. And there's some big deals here and there across the board. I think even the crazy thing about it, the Fred Van Vliet deal with Houston.
That was overpaid.
Absolutely overpaid. However, there is, for good reason, all-star guard. Of course, one of the better players from Toronto's team last season offensively, and an NBA champion from 2019. He ends up getting paid a huge contract north of $200 million. But before we even go to the rest of the league, there's a reason why I started with the Draymond Green and the Grant deals. Both of them, in my honest opinion, Jonka, I honestly think that kind of elevated Damian Lillard's decision. Going into free agency, the all-star guard, the 30-point player coming off a career best type of season last year, was like, hey, I'm going to see what the front office does. I want to see what they do. Maybe they get Green. No. Maybe we get another guy. You can't really, if you're giving $160 million to Grant, which again, great talent from Detroit, comes to Portland, prove himself, but not 160 million. So now Damian Lillard requesting for a trade, and the biggest thing, and the reason why we're talking about it here on the sports podcast for South Florida, the Miami Heat is a destination he desires. So, Jonka, just to jump into it, I'm just kind of curious because everyone kind of knows it's going to be Tyler Hero, maybe another piece. But what do you think is going to happen, and what is happening right now with these trade talks?
Bro, as it's funny because I was texting Daniel. We were like tweeting each other a bunch of tweets. Damian Lillard wants to go to Miami, but then he says, "Oh, but he has respect for the Spurs, but he really wants to play for Miami." But then now the Portland Blazers are open to talks with other teams. I'm like that SpongeBob meme. He's like,
He's going back and forth.
yeah, I'm dizzy at this point. I don't know what's gonna happen. All I know is that the Heat don't have enough to offer, obviously for Dame. But if Dame really wants to like stick it to the Blazers, like, hey, listen, I really just want to play for Miami. I don't want to go anywhere else. I can see the Blazers like, listen, we understand that you want to go to Miami, but like we also have to look out for ourselves too. And I can see them not trading Dame at this moment, holding him out for another year or so.
Year.
If they can't find any offer, I don't see why Portland doesn't just say, all right, we're just gonna make you play another year, and until we find an offer that you want, since you want to play for Miami.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is though, because I understand the hostage situation, especially with during Kawhi Leonard when he was with the Spurs and he was looking to go out to Los Angeles, and then Greg Popovich and staff end up sending over there to Toronto. Is there you really? And again, I don't really believe this. However, do you think Damian Lillard will be the type of player that if he is forced to stay, you think he will still play or kind of try to stray away from the franchise?
I think he'll play because I think he's a stand-up guy. He's not going to be that guy. He's like, you know what? He's not going to be a Kawhi Leonard where I'll just sit out for a year because I want to do what I want because I know I have star power and I can control basically the tickets of what are sold. If I say right now that I'm not going to play this season and I'm going to hold out, most of the Portland Trailblazer fans are going to be like, why should I go play? Why should I go watch the game if I know Dame's not going to play? That's what I want to see.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's like I'd give him I'd give him what he wants because if he does do that and he's like, you know what, screw this loyalty stuff. I was loyal I gave you time, I gave you loyalty. I gave you 11 years of my life. You gave away CJ McCollum. You took away basically my second-hand man, CJ.
Yep.
You gave him away. And now I was solo. I gave you a try as much as I can to do. I told you to try to at least get some veteran pieces. You signed Jeremy Grant for overpaid money. You couldn't get Draymond. You couldn't get somebody else. You could have signed Brook Lopez. You had the money for it, but
Yeah.
it's not work. I don't think it's gonna work out. There's gonna be some tension. I don't think that. I think loyalty is gonna be thrown out the window, and there's gonna be some hostility between them two. I have a feeling because I know since Miami has no way of offering anything, and they need a third team to come in to make that deal done. Most likely, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
They already said that Sixers already said that they're not giving up Tyrese Maxey. I tweeted at you about Boston potentially making a good enough offer.
Yeah, which is possible, especially the Jaylen Brown hasn't really even touched extension yet. So
That
but
could still happen if something happen. I don't know. I would like to see the Heat make a 3-team trade with the Pelicans.
okay.
I would like to see the Pelicans.
But,
But
but so what are we talking? Well, but let's just stick on that Pelicans thought though. So what player though would it even happen? Would it be just Miami ends up, let's say for example like a Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero type of deal, send them over to the Pelicans. The Pelicans give up something to the Portland Trailblazers.
Send Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson to the Pelicans.
Okay,
And Brandon Ingram and CJ or whoever else to Trailblazers, back to the Trailblazers, but the Heat get Damon Zion.
I like that you said that because I would disagree with the Brandon Ingram one. I think he's too big of an all-star, too big of an asset for New Orleans to get rid of. But what I would say, because of course Zion Williamson, we all know the story behind him. Hasn't been on the floor at all during his career. Injury issues, relationship issues, as we know, off of the court on Twitter, which is, again, it's a touchy subject, weird subject. But definitely the Pelicans are most likely going to be parting ways with him before he even touches, Smoothie King Arena, really. What honestly, I didn't even think about it, but what if the Pelicans, as the third team, they give away Zion Williamson to Portland? Tyler Hero makes his way to Portland as well, right behind him. And then Portland gives up Damian Lillard, of course, to Miami. Miami gives up a couple of draft capital and Kyle Lowry to New Orleans. Of course, I'm not really too positive how salary-wise, financially-wise, how this trade will even stand. But, I mean, in overall talent, though, it makes sense. Zion, who, again, was training in Portland, during his off time with that New Orleans, he goes back over there where he's, familiar with throughout his NBA career. Damian Lillard goes to Miami, and then Tyler Hero. And again, this is a New Orleans team that was in a play-in team, but definitely has the strength to make the playoffs at a top 6 team in the Western Conference next year. They can easily, Tyler Hero, Brandon Ingram, I'd be afraid of that matchup. Me personally, I would really be afraid of that matchup. Yeah. But what I would say specifically, because this is why I do agree, I don't think the Heat have enough.
They don't. I always have a problem with how they handle their draft picks, how they handle recruiting players, undrafted players. It's like, okay, you got rid of Vincent, Strus is out. Now who do you have to offer?
Yeah.
You offer Jovic. He's only had probably one game in the entire playoffs of playing time. He hasn't really shown much at all. You're gonna get rid of Highsmith? No, because he has potential for the team. Who else?
You can also
Richardson back.
Yeah.
Who else?
There's not really much else. Unless you look at the free agent additions, which of course I'll go through right now for the Miami Heat.
Caleb Martin, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, the additions for the Miami Heat so far during this free agency. My apologies for the ringer, but Thomas Bryant, who just won a championship with the Denver Nuggets, he signs on for the upcoming season, as well with Josh Richardson, who, what has it been, like 6 years we see him in a Heat jersey, and they end up having him announce and officially sign on their social media, but without the number of 0, which of course we know is Damian Lillard's number, so that can only tell, it's a guarantee. We're deep in discussion for a Lillard trade. But besides those additions, maybe they improved a little bit. But of course, we also look at The departures. Max Strus, $64 million for the Cavaliers, 3 years. And this is a sign and trade. So Miami did get some compensation back money-wise. But, man, the one that got me, though, that it just, again, not personally Heat fan myself. Whenever I do reporting, I'm unbiased, especially with NBA. But the one that really gets me, though, Gabe Vincent. You let him walk away to Los Angeles, and it was only a $3 million difference annually as salary that Miami could offer him. I don't understand that. If you ask me, he could have easily been the starter next year for Miami.
True.
And of course, again, with Lillard, imagine you sign him. That's a huge asset in a trade. I would rather have a Gabe Vincent, Tyler Hero, whatever, than a Kyle Lowry on a last year of a contract. It makes sense. That's what I think, at least.
I think he just signed today or yesterday. Lonnie Walker.
Yeah.
He played at UM. I tracked him before he in high school. ESPN 300 player. I don't understand why he didn't go for him or Bruce Brown.
No, absolutely.
That pissed me off so much. Like, bro, these guys know about Miami, bro. They love Miami. They played here. They know what it takes. They play for Jim Larinaga. They know what it is to fight. It's the same thing for the Heat. Why didn't you go for them? There would be nice pieces. And if guess what? You sign them both, and let's say you can use one of them or maybe both for a Dame trade. You could have used Lonnie maybe.
No, absolutely.
For like, and so you trade it and then trade him again to the Portland Trailblazers, and boom, the deal would have been done.
Yeah,
because he's an up and coming player. He's been in the league for a couple of years now, but I don't know what Pat Riley's doing, because if he flops on Dame, I don't see how Miami does anything this next year.
No, yeah.
I predict if Miami does not get Dame, we do not make the playoffs.
Wow, so not even graze any bit of, and again, I mean, play-in team though, that type of area we're talking about. Oh, okay, up in the air. But what I would say for the Damian Lillard part, because of course we do have to move on. We do have a lot of things to talk about for free agency. But what I would say for the Damian Lillard part, and again, from a lot of people that, both of us are from South Florida, we know a lot of Heat fans. We follow this Heat team a lot. And of course, whenever you watch the Heat, it's who do you think is going to be the biggest name on the court besides Jimmy Butler? Bam Adebayo. According for the GM for the Portland Trailblazers, they're looking for an asset, an all-star asset back with Damian Lillard. They're not looking for a Rudy Gobert, give me 5, whatever first-round pick, something crazy at the end of it. They're not looking for just get Ben Simmons out of here with the James Harden trade. They're looking to really get an asset to keep them winning right now in the Western Conference. And for Portland themselves, they have one of the worst records in the West. Of course, did not make the playoffs or anything like that. But, they got some talent now. Scoot Henderson, the 3rd overall pick in this this past NBA draft, followed by as well of Sharp. And, you can that as well, and Simmons as well. So, they got a lot of great talent. But I'm thinking to myself, as I mentioned before with the Bam stuff, if they wanted already Hero, they would have had this trade done even with a 3rd team, most likely Brooklyn. But I'm telling you right now, it's Bam or bust. That's really what I'm thinking right now in the situation. The Portland Trailblazers, they're thinking to themselves, why do we need another guard behind Scoot? Do we really need somebody that's going to be right there on the wing? Do we need another wing guy? And again, this is a Portland team that needs a lot of help. Don't get me wrong, with Chauncey Billups and staff. But I mean, Nurkic it's not going to get any better. They need a big man in the middle. And, of course, a guy that they can develop. They haven't had a big man that I can say that was an all-star potential player or let alone something entertaining to watch besides LaMarcus Aldridge. And funny enough, that was when the beginning of Damian Lillard's saga really began with Aldridge, Seaman McCollum, as well as Nicholas Batum. And he stayed this long. I mean, you might as well find a repeat of that in Portland. Can get a Bam, Simmons, get Scoot, get Sharp. That's a big 4 right there. And again, a young core that I think offensively will really surprise a lot of people in the Western Conference. So whenever it comes down to a trade, it's got to be Bam. And there's a lot of people that say, oh, but it's going to be Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero already knows. And of course, as mentioned before in our plug of the week, which is all on our socials on Instagram as well as on Twitter, Tyler Hero has already taken his name out of his Twitter bio, his Instagram bio of Heat Guard to whatever it is now. But he acknowledges, But he acknowledges, though, he's going to be gone, though.
Oh, yeah. I was going to bring this up, too. I was texting Daniel about this. That now with all this going on, it feels like every year Tyler Hero is mentioned in trades.
Yep.
And I think at this point it's gone. I think it's getting to him. Like, why you treat like you drafted me. We've been on all these runs in the playoffs. I work hard too. And then I guess he's feeling like he's slighted or being undercut for some reason. And I think this is going to cause some drama in South Beach.
No, absolutely. And you know what I think is the biggest thing, though? Because even before last season, the biggest question was what? Is Tyler Hero going to start on the roster? Like, he wanted to start, and he got that opportunity early in the season as well. But it's like now you're back to square, just to the bottom, especially if he goes to Portland. He has to figure out his way back to a starting lineup, let alone maybe even playing more than 30, 25 minutes. And, of course, with his hands, I mean, he's had, 2 injuries to his upper body and his hand area already in his career. So there's a lot of question. Is he injury prone? Is he ever going to get back to the same talent that we, again, for Heat fan base, they expect? I'm not too positive. I think he has the potential for it, of course. But, again, that's what Portland needs to decide. So a lot of that's right now in the air.
What hurts him is that, yes, he's great offensively. He's clutch at some points, but is that every year we see the same thing. He's either injured or he's a defensive liability where he cannot defend players, and then so they ends up causing us wins at the end of the game. And he still has not improved his defense. We've seen recently this past playoffs, Duncan Robinson take that leap.
Yeah,
he played way better defense. He was dribbling the ball, getting to the basket. He wasn't just chucking up threes, just camping at the 3-point line, like somebody we know, like we're talking about right now, Hero.
Yep.
But I understand that Hero and Bam have a thing. They have that 1-2 punch. I don't know what else the Heat can do besides a 3-team trade, but maybe involve a 4-team trade. Maybe it'll be a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. And I think also a really interesting thing, I think a lot of people need to be looking a little bit more closer. Even though, Brooklyn's been a part of this. But I'm thinking, what if Philadelphia, who's trying to move James Harden, right? I mean, when you look at it, he opted into a $36.5 million option and then asked to be traded afterwards. So financially, he could stick up right there with Lillard's contract and, of course, whoever that comes with it. And Portland, what if James Harden goes to Portland in all this? It's possible.
James Harden in Portland?
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know how much he'll like it, but it'll definitely be something that's possible, though, I think, trade-wise. But before we go into any bit more of the NBA free agency, just to kill off this Lillard piece, we're going to go into what would we do if we were the GMs? If you're Pat Riley, Jonka, who are you giving away that you think will be enough for Damian Lillard? It's a tough one, I'm telling you.
Hero.
Okay.
Do I include Duncan, bro? Do I include Duncan?
I mean, honestly, I would.
I would include Hero, Jovic.
Okay.
What's that? What's that guy's name? Sorry, we signed him?
Orlando Robinson?
Yeah.
Okay, so Orlando Robinson, after getting a 2-way contract, he finally gets his full contract. Mm-hmm. And then we give him away. Kind of brutal, but I like it.
Him. Two two rounders, two second rounders.
Okay. You know what I would say?
Maybe one more person. I don't know who, but maybe Lowry.
Definitely Lowry. Definitely Lowry.
Four players and two first second round picks. A first or a second, who knows?
Yep. It's good. But you know what I would say though? And again, just giving you an idea how much I've been thinking about this. Lowry, Duncan Robinson, Bam Adebayo, two unprotected first round picks in the future. For Damian Lillard, and if there's another team, you get another asset or two of them to fix the bench.
Would you take, man, if the Heat are really trying to win right now, I would try to go for Dame and Embiid.
Yeah, and again, this is
to match up with Jimmy.
Yeah, and that's another thing.
Offer out a bio for Embiid because I feel like Embiid wants out.
Yeah, but again, that's a huge price tag alone for Philadelphia. We're talking about the soul of that team. You know what I mean? I mean, one-time MVP. My apologies, one-time MVP, Joel Embiid. So, but actually, let's go right into it though. For the free agency itself, we talk about a lot of deals. I'll be here all day, really talking about everything. Of course, we only have so little time. We're nearing the halfway mark of our episode, but for you, Jonka, let's start with surprises. What was one surprise you saw in this free agency that you just can't believe happened?
Let me see here. I would have to say, what is it? Obi Toppin to the Pacers.
Yep.
Kyle Kuzma decides to stay with the Wizards. I thought he was out.
I mean, you know what's really funny about that? I remember when it first came out, a lot of people were like, why would the Wizards do that? Why would they even want him for that much? We're looking at the deal. 4 years, $102 million. And this is, again, him and as well Jordan Poole coming in next year. I thought it was a good move.
Yeah.
I think it's a smart move, honestly.
Don't sleep on the Wizards and especially the Pacers now with the Pacers got what's his name? My God, where is he? I just had it here.
What, Bruce Brown?
Oh no, my bad. Not the Pacers. The Knicks.
Oh yeah.
DiVincenzo from the Warriors.
Yeah.
That's a great pickup.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the crazy thing about for like the Knicks, I mean, what is that, like Villanova NBA now? I mean, all of them teammates, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and DiVincenzo. But 4 years, $50 million is not that bad. It's really not as bad as people think. I remember when people were talking about on Twitter, like, oh, they got this guy for what? Put him on a big time contract. I thought the craziest thing, the biggest surprise to me, the Los Angeles Lakers and Austin Reeves. Again, we have no idea exactly what this kid's going to be. We talk about one season and probably even less than that. The second half of the season when the Lakers are like on fire, making their way into the playoffs. Austin Reeves handling the ball well, can do things on the ball that not a lot of guys in the NBA can do. And an efficient scorer, can move with ease off ball as well. Defensively, he stands tall, has a good shot as well, efficient. He ends up taking a 4-year, $56 million early bird maximum contract. So this was like the most the Lakers probably would have been able to offer him anyway. For 4 years, that's decent. But again, half a season of talent, a small sample size for the SEC kid. I don't know about that. I'm not saying he's a bust. I don't think he's worth $56 million. I think it's a Tyler Johnson type of deal for those of pretty fans.
They gave him that deal because he's on the Lakers. The Lakers got money, and that how many times that he's bailed them out in certain situations by being clutch and just like being able to hit some shots, and plus his attitude and his will to play is there. Better than delivering pizzas.
No, yeah, it's always a crazy story, especially with those Laker guys like Matt Ryan before. But yeah, I thought that was really crazy though. I mean, not even that the Lakers themselves, I looked into somewhat of a perspective because they lost assets, they gained assets in replacing them. At first, I'm thinking, oh, they're building like a super team. They're building something special. And I still think that Rob Pelinka has been more active than I've ever seen him. And like just alone the past year, from the trade deadline, getting rid of Westbrook, and then finding out a way to get D'Angelo Russell there, finding out a way to get Vanderbilt there. And now he's figured out a way to get multiple guys there. When we look at it, I mean, Jackson Hayes, I thought was phenomenal for New Orleans and an untapped talent from Texas. He ends up coming onto the team. And Dennis Schroeder, they lose Dennis Schroeder, but they do find ways of replacing him with other options. But I looked around, it's like, are these options that they have, is it going to really move the needle? I don't think the Lakers, I mean, we're talking about if they can compete with Denver, with Sacramento. I don't think they can do that right now.
I I don't know. I think Denver losing Bruce Brown was a big hit to their bench because he brought a lot of energy and shooting and playmaking to that team that they weren't getting. I guarantee you this right now. If the Nuggets don't have Bruce Brown, the Heat when the Heat in the finals, that series is going 7 games.
No, yeah. I mean, again, you never really know in those situations, but Bruce Brown, he's been a vital piece in a lot of deep playoff runs for teams. 2021, the Brooklyn Nets, of course, recently with the Denver Nuggets. I mean, he's a vital piece. And again, a grad type of guy who's been through tough matchups throughout a lot of these years. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I think Bruce Brown was also another shocker for me because, again, from the parade, Coach Malone for the Denver Nuggets was like, oh, yeah, he's coming back. We're running it back. I'm really shocked, though. He really went for the bag in this one. 2 years, $45 million deal, as mentioned before earlier in this podcast for Bruce Brown to Indiana. And he goes on to meet up with Halliburton, who, again, is another young, phenomenal talent that was formerly with the Kings and did a whole trade against Sabonis over there at Sacktown. I like that, I'm not saying Indiana is going to be a playoff team. I think they're still borderline a play-in team, even with these moves during free agency as of right now. But they made some, they need some leeway to like get some room for a future. They really have. But moving on to the next one, though, I think the biggest, and I think I'll go first on this one, the biggest move in free agency that not a lot of people are talking about. The Milwaukee Bucks able to keep Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez in Milwaukee beside Giannis.
I think they signed Robin Lopez also.
Oh, okay. I must have.
I think that's what I read.
Okay.
Let me see.
Okay. So they got the Lopez brothers. Of course, the most important one though, Brook, who was in a lot of. And I think the crazy thing about this free agency,
he also got Malik Beasley.
Yes, that one I believe as well as Jay Crowder. But man, let me tell you though, I don't know how, but Houston was like a heavy suitor. See, the brightness clears up. There we go. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Their defense is going to be outstanding.
Yeah, I don't know if Robin's even going to see the court, but maybe some games. But yeah, I mean, as I was saying though, I mean, for Houston though, the Houston Rockets, I was really shocked of how big of a player they were in free agency. From Fred VanVleet, as I mentioned before, from Dylan Brooks, who I thought was never going to see the NBA court after his time in Memphis. They were a huge suitor in Brook Lopez. They were talking about potentially 2-year, $50 million type of deal. There's a bunch of things going around of this ridiculous contract that would be, again, short-term contract, but be more than what Milwaukee was going to be willing to pay for. And somehow they're able to get Brook Lopez back to the Bucks. And as well, Chris Middleton. And the crazy thing about Chris Middleton, 3 years, $102 million deal. That's more than I expected in such a little time, though. 3 years, I mean, $102 million for Chris Middleton. Maybe I'll move it to 115 if you're looking to get a 4-year type of deal. But Milwaukee is definitely, I'm not saying won free agency, but they saved themselves in this free agency. I think it's the biggest move.
Yeah, Milwaukee right now is on a tear right now, especially getting Malik Beasley too.
Mm-hmm.
Like let me see here, NBA. Okay, we got. I just need you to tell me: do the Milwaukee Bucks make the playoffs next year?
Absolutely.
Okay, Mill. We're two. Boston with Porzingis.
Absolutely. I think you know what? Because I wasn't even going to talk about this for this free agency thing because it's kind of like set in stone now. But during free agency, the Celtics were able to put down Porzingis from his contract, an extension for 2 years, $60 million. It's probably the biggest thing I think the Celtics could have done. Besides, of course, what's going to be happening soon with Jaylen Brown, and how does that play with Damian Lillard? We're not too positive just yet, if even that's even going to be considered, especially with Damian Lillard wanting to play for Miami. But knowing that Porzingis will be there 2 years, besides that, of course, Robert Williams, Al Horford, who has, I believe, 2 more years as well with the Celtics, and then Jason Tatum, whose contract will be done after this season. It's huge. It's huge to keep an all-star there in TD. But yeah, Celtics, I think definitely, and again, they will be a contender this year, but they will definitely make the playoffs.
All right, 76ers.
It's the thing because I don't hate Philly.
No. Do they make the playoffs?
They do make the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't want to get too complicated, but
No, yeah, but what it would say, and again, they would make the playoffs. They're not going to be a top 5 seed.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. What the moves they're doing.
Cavaliers, Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yes,
they are okay.
Absolutely.
The Knicks.
I think they make it as a 7 seed, play-in team.
Okay. So New York Knicks. Brooklyn Nets.
They don't.
Okay, so Brooklyn, no. Atlanta.
No. John Collins move.
That was
freed up the cat space, but they didn't really put anything with it.
Bro, it was a second round pick and a nobody, bro, for that. I'm like, bro, where was Pat Riley on that, bro?
Bro, I wish.
Oh my god.
Man, let me tell you, because everyone's been looking. I mean, even Celtic, Knick fans, everyone's looking for Collins, though. Let me tell you.
The Bulls.
No, especially with Lonzo Ball not even touching the court next season. I mean, they brought back Vucevic. Yeah, they brought back Kobe White for a huge contract. I believe even north of $100 million. They're not really making the moves in the right way.
Toronto.
I think they shock people. I really do believe they shock people. And I hate to say this, but I think Grady Dick, I think he's going to be a player that's fun to watch. Maybe even a sleeper for Rookie of the Year. I think that team does shock people. They're a play-in team, but they make the playoffs.
Okay, so let's put Toronto. Now head to Indiana Pacers.
They don't make it.
They don't make it with the additions?
I think the additions are great. I don't think it's enough to really go over the hump. I mean, we're still talking about, again, the Miami Heat were a play-in team that made it all the way to the NBA Finals. When you look at the rosters for at least the top 6 to 7 teams in the NBA for the Eastern Conference, Indiana is not close to any of them.
And then Washington.
That team will not make a playoff in the next 6 years. Again,
obviously, then you have Orlando, Charlotte, and then Detroit, which that's no.
Yeah. However, for Orlando, though, don't sleep on the Magic. They had a really great second half of the year. They ended up winning record to end it off all. I mean, Paul is phenomenal. They're able to bring back, Wagner and his brother, of course.
Banchero.
Yeah, Paulo, as I mentioned before, yeah. But I like the Magic. Markelle Fultz, I think he's developing. Cole Anthony, I mean, really replaceable with Jalen Suggs. But besides that, why not? So, again,
you
to watch.
You have Miami in the playoffs, but you're missing one team. Who would it be? Out of Orlando, Charlotte, and Detroit.
I think that's an easy one.
Or it's one of the other ones you said no to: Brooklyn, Atlanta, Bulls, Indiana, or Washington.
I will go on the limb and say Orlando Magic. That one, I have a lot of high hopes. I don't know why, but watching Paulo play basketball, watching Fulton, Franz Wagner. Again, these are young guys who have already developed into a point where it's like they're a threat to play every single night. I'm telling you right now, I like Orlando, and I don't think they're a play-in team if they're really going to develop well throughout this year.
Okay, tell me this: if the Heat, this is all hypothetical.
Hypotheticals, of
If
course.
they don't get Lillard, and the team they have right now is what they play with, do they make the playoffs with Jimmy, Bam, and whoever else they have?
I think the overall talent that they have, it's really good. However, as I mentioned before, a lot of teams like Orlando, young talent, it's developing, it's getting better. They're making that jump. RJ Barrett is going to make that jump with Jalen Brunson. I mean, the Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell, and Mobley, they're going to make that jump as well for Cleveland after some playoff experience. I don't think Miami's making a jump. I really don't.
I'm not sleeping on. I don't want to sleep on Brooklyn and I don't want to sleep on the Bulls because the Bulls were technically a game away. We're like 2 minutes away from eliminating the Heat in that playing game.
Yeah,
and
look.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, look, I love Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn. I think Mikal Bridges, he's a star in the making. Cam Johnson, another. I think Cam Johnson, who got above $100 million for a 4-year contract over this free agency as well, was a huge move for Brooklyn to attain that asset they got from the KD trade, and is of course going to be a starter next year, maybe a big piece besides Mikal. Chicago has nothing. Nothing. I mean, besides DeRozan, it's like
LaVine.
I really pray for LaVine sometimes. I pray that he figures it out and decides after this contract that he's on, let me go back to the Western Conference, maybe go back to Minnesota with Anthony Edwards. I don't know. But if you ask me personally, Lonzo Ball is not going to be back for next year. They lost Patrick Beverley. They brought back guys on big contracts, which didn't improve the team. A team that didn't even make the playoffs and didn't make it out of the play-in. And yeah, sure, 2 minutes away from being the Heat, a team that made it all the way to the finals. But again, play-in team. They weren't good in the regular season. They don't have the players. And again, Lonzo Ball not being there for the postseason. They're not going to make the playoffs next year. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if they really drop the ball and there's a bottom 3 team, a bottom feeder maybe in the Eastern Conference.
The thing is with Miami, if they don't get Dame, obviously they keep Hero, they keep Duncan, they keep whoever else they can offer. But they don't have those Gabe Vincent and Strus anymore.
Yeah.
They have to use those young guys that haven't played any minutes and that they're better defensively than they are offensively. So I can see the Heat struggling again in offense this next regular season. Jimmy Butler is not getting any younger. Obviously, he saves himself for the playoffs. That's why we call him Playoff Jimmy.
Of course.
So throughout the regular season, he's not going to be what you want him to be, obviously. So that hinders down your offense even more. We could see Adebayo take that next step, but he's gonna have to be the leading scorer of the team. It's gonna be hard because we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, wait, let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
Do you put in as of from 1 to 8 seed? Is Milwaukee above Miami?
Going to next season?
Yeah, like in seeding. Like if they were in first place to 8th place in the Eastern Conference, do you see Milwaukee above Miami?
I say Milwaukee's the number 2 seed by the end of it all.
Okay. Boston.
Yeah, Boston's number 1. I think, again, we're talking regular season, not playoffs. I think Boston does take regular season.
Philly.
They're going to drop. It's going to sound crazy, but 6th seed.
Okay, so is that above or below Miami?
It's still going to be above Miami.
Okay. Cleveland.
They're going to be below Miami.
Below Miami? Where do you have Miami at?
7th. Playing team. And honestly, a very similar situation. Yeah, I got Cleveland at 8. Again, I think that they had a lot of luck and again, the start of the season, they were a top team, a top 4 team overall in the NBA, and they played great. But the same way I talk about the Phoenix Suns, they got 4 guys that played 35 to 40 minutes a game, most likely, through the biggest games of the season. And yeah, sure, Donovan Mitchell, Mobley, as mentioned before earlier, Garrett Allen, Karis LeVert coming off the bench, Okoro. Max Strus moves the needle a little bit, does it? I mean, they went through 5 games against New York, which in New York I think will be a much better team this time around. I don't really.
I would put the Knicks over Cleveland, if that's me for next year.
Yeah, same.
But you have Miami over Cleveland.
I think Cleveland does drop. I think Philadelphia drops. I think Cleveland drops. And again, these are much early honestly, these predictions are much earlier than anybody's probably predicting right now.
Yeah.
But I do see an ideal Cleveland goes in the playoffs, fool's gold is shown, and the bench actually cracks over.
Okay.
And who else is on that bench to help out?
What about the Knicks? The Knicks are going to be above the Heat?
Yes, I love the Knicks in the sense of not a Knicks fan, but watching New York play, it's like it's actually fun to watch New York play for the first time since Melo and Jair and Shumpert were on that team with Raymond Felton. You know what I mean? Like, I actually have a joy watching New York play offense. I think not Donovan Mitchell, Mitchell Robinson, I think has a upcoming year right next to Julius Randle. I think Julius Randle, he's going to be recessing a little bit in his game, but Robinson's going to be really good. Brunson, of course, going to that all-star role. RJ Barrett needs to take that jump, and I do think he will take that jump next year. But the biggest part about it, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Quickly, who almost got 6th man of the year. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's Hartenstein, number 55, the big man they got as well. They got guys that improved and showed a lot of light in the postseason as well during that in the regular season last season. I think it's just going to carry on. I like this New York team. Honestly, I think they're going to develop an all-star in Jalen Brunson, who should have been an all-star already, but he's going to be named all-star quickly. I don't think he's going to be getting any better soon. But at this point, they got a great lineup. I think their top 8 guys in rotation, they can match as a second-round team easily. So they're going to be number 5, in my opinion.
So you said since Cleveland is going to be below Miami, you said Miami was going to be number 7. So
yeah.
You got Cleveland at 8.
Actually, my apologies. The Knicks going to be at 4, actually. Going to be at 4.
So the Knicks will be 4.
Yeah.
And then what do you have Toronto at 6?
So for the Raptors themselves, because I mentioned Philadelphia at 6, I'm actually going to have the Raptors at 5. As crazy as that sounds.
The Raptors at 5, okay.
I'm thinking they're going to surprise a lot of people, probably like choke in the postseason, but they're going to surprise a lot of people.
So who you put? So you're putting. So who will be at 6? Philly, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me do this correctly. Let me make your list. Boston at 1, Milwaukee at 2. Who do you have at 3?
Oh, 3, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My apologies, I had to scratch a little bit.
Philadelphia?
Not Philadelphia. I'm going to put Milwaukee at 2, Boston at 1. So that's still 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go a little bit on a limb here because I do really believe in New York. I think the Knicks take the 3rd spot. I believe they take the 3rd spot.
Okay.
Philadelphia would actually make their way slowly into the 4th spot.
Oh, Philly at 4. Okay. Interesting. Number 5, you said.
Follow that by 5, Toronto, shocking some people. The Cavaliers, they really figured a way out to really, hurt themselves. And again, fool's gold. We're finding with a roster that has a lot of power, but not a lot of time. Injuries will be a deal that they'll have to go through. I got them at 6. Okay. 7, of course, the Miami Heat will come in as a play-in team. And I think with the roster they have, and especially the additions they made during free agency, they did lose Victor Oladipo, Gabe Vincent. Offensively, this isn't going to be a team you want to watch offensively. If you watch this Heat team during the playoffs, don't expect this team to go any bit close to 100 points at all. So Miami, they take that 7th seed, and the 8th seed.
It can go to either Orlando, Washington, Indiana, Bulls, Atlanta, or Brooklyn.
It's gonna
Brooklyn was number 6 this past season.
yes, but again, this was number 6 after Kevin Durant, 11-game winning streak in the first half of the year. They were a top 4 team that dropped all the way close to the play-in tournament. They were a game ahead of Miami, I believe. It's going to be Brooklyn, Orlando. And I can say that with a straight face. Again, as I mentioned before, Orlando, they're cooking something. I think they really got a great pickup than they did in this in this year's draft. Brooklyn, they've done some things, but from their draft class, I mean, Whitehead, he's got an injury right now with his lower body. He's not going to be there. And then you also look at Nick Claxton. I don't believe in Nick Claxton at all. And not saying I'm not trying to hate on him. Again, great guy, all that stuff, and playing phenomenally, especially in the postseason. But him against Robert Williams, he doesn't really do much. Him against Joel Embiid, him against Bam Adebayo, him against Garrett Allen. You can name whatever you want for a big man in the Eastern Conference. I don't have confidence he matches up well.
Oh, wait. Did Payne Pritchard get traded or no?
Not yet. I'm expecting it, to be honest with you. I'm expecting the Celtics to move him already, but not yet. So, but yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, though, the Brooklyn Nets, they need more depth, right? They got rid of Curry. They got rid of overall Joe Harrison, a trade with Detroit. They got Cam Thomas. I mean, yeah, he had 3 40-point games, but it's not like he's going to have that randomly during the season where he says MJ. They're going to need a lot of help, man. A lot of help. I mean, Royce O'Neal's good. I think they got good guys on that roster, but there's not a playoff team. I mean, Magic have more potential than Brooklyn. That's in my honest opinion as of right now. So it's a toss-up between those two.
I think I got Milwaukee at 1.
Okay.
Boston at 2. But it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close between them two.
Yep.
Damn. Do I really want to put Philly at 3, or do I put the Knicks at 3?
I'm telling you, man, you can't sleep on New York and Philadelphia again with no James Harden this time around.
Just adding DiVincenzo, make them a 3 seed, and they got rid of Obi Toppin. So
yeah, and again, he barely saw any minutes on the floor though.
It all depends on Julius Randle. Does he change his attitude?
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep Philly at 3. Because even though they still have Joel Embiid, they got Tobias Harris, they still got Tyrese Maxey and a bunch of other guys. So I'm gonna keep them at 3. I'm gonna put the Knicks obviously at 4.
All right.
I'm gonna put Cleveland at 5. I think we're gonna see a rematch.
Oh, like a Nick Cavs. Yep.
Yeah.
Man, it gets tricky.
I have a sleeper.
All right.
I need to see what they do. Obviously, I'm gonna put Indiana at 6.
So they jump through the play-in.
This is if the Heat don't add Dame.
Right. Of course.
The Heat will be in the play-in. They will face either Brooklyn or the Bulls for that last spot. If they play the Bulls, the Heat win. And they make the 8th seed again. But if they play the Brooklyn Nets, I think the Heat lose. And they're out.
That is, I mean, again, that'll be a hard matchup, though, too, for Miami.
And we're not even talking about the Western Conference. This is the Eastern Conference because the Suns signed Watanabe, Eric Gordon, and some other players.
No, especially like as we talk about free agency throughout this podcast, they've signed a bunch of guys to like 3 million, 1.5 million, these veteran minimum. Half of the guys I don't know, like Damian Lee or whatever his name is. I know that guy, of course, from the Golden State Warriors. Anyone else?
I'll tell you right now. Let me see.
I mean, besides that, it's not a lot of guys. I mean, I think the guy Utah, I forgot how to pronounce his last name, so I do apologize, from the Brooklyn Nets. He ends up going on to sign 1 year with Phoenix. But besides that, they don't really have much of a bench. That's why I always compare them to that of the Cavaliers, where you have these guys who are going to be expected to play 40 to 35 minutes a game. Not a lot of help from the bench afterwards. You can't really survive in the postseason, let alone in the second round.
Yes, I'm telling you right now. The Suns picked up. I think the sleeper, one of the biggest sleepers in the draft in the offseason,
Okay.
Utah Watanabe from the Nets.
Yeah, that was the one I was talking about.
Well, the dude is 6'9". He shoots 44% from three, and then 51% from three in the corner. And he has athleticism against guards, bro. It's like he could. I don't know why.
Yeah.
The more I read about these players that signed for basically nothing, I look at Pat Riley as like, bro, listen, it's not like you guys didn't like work hard for it, bro. Like, if you want to add Dame, let's go ahead. You can add Dame, but that's what a point guard isn't your problem. Well, your problem was you had Hero injured and you had Oladipo injured. If you have Hero healthy and you add some bigger pieces on defense and some players that can give you some offense and a big guy that can like Thomas Bryant or Nurkic or something like that or Watanabe, if they were able to get him, he could shoot, spread the floor, and give Adebayo some rest while he's on the bench, relax, chilling for a second.
Yep.
And it's like, I just hate what is like Pat Riley. What is this is what I was asking people, like at this point, when they're drafting people, do they just like decide, okay, does this player fit the Heat culture, and then like he could be, let's say he's the next revolutionary player, but if he doesn't fit the Heat culture, then he won't sign him.
Yeah. I mean,
That's what pisses me off about this Heat culture BS.
mhm.
Because like why do you just go for the players that you think are gonna fit your style? Like, bro, it's like, why don't you go for the player that's a little bit selfish, that can give you a bucket, and then as he plays for your team, you transition him into the culture you want. Make him learn the culture instead of just him already knowing what. Like, you just including him. Okay, yeah, you know what? You're this player. We know what we want you for. We're gonna shove you in there, and that's it. You put them into this box, and they can never come out of that box, and so they can never like fully become what they can. And it's
No, I mean, it's frustrating. But again, I think chemistry is a huge part, talent's a huge part. But we are going up to that hour mark here for our podcast tonight. Of course, we talked a lot about free agency. Of course, Miami Heat, Portland, Trailblazers, Damian Lillard, that saga still continues on. But as we mentioned before, the Eastern Conference got a lot better. It got a little bit more stiffer, especially now with Damian Lillard potentially going on to Miami. But we'll keep you updated with that and more. And, of course, the next episode, don't forget, Summer League started today. Miami got the win against the Los Angeles Lakers to open up the league in this Summer Classic. And, I mean, Jaquez, he looked good, man. He looked good. But 22 points, man. 22 points to get out of UCLA. But that'll do it for us here on Plug Talk Sports for tonight. We hope to see you guys next Monday at 9 p.m. and hope to have a happy Independence Day.
Support the troops.